But all of it was so fascinating to me. I love to do classifications. I like to handle a switch list. We'd come to Humboldt on that local. We'd have 50 cars on a list. I've had as high as 3 switch lists, 150 cars. The fertilizer alone, we had 3 tracks, and we'd have to spot like phosphate, potash, furfural, where they could run through with these little dollies, front end loaders, and unload them and run back through the cars. And they'd give us a list, and we'd have to switch them just right and spot them in all these places.
They'd have to be in a certain order.
Humboldt was, man, they had a cannon factory there. I've seen 150 cars on that yard. And Trenton, man, I've seen 150 cars on that yard.
What did they make in Trenton?
They just got everything by rail. They had a cotton oil mill there, did a lot of business. They had a big wholesale food warehouse, and all the gas and oil come in by rail and tank cars and box cars with the oil, you know, and stuff like that. That was on the stock track, and then on one end of the stock track it had a place where you could drop coal cars. Wilson Coal Company. Everybody burnt coal back in those days, and people would call and want a ton of coal, and he'd load it in his truck and take it to them, you know. But we set out a many a car of coal there, golly. And then we had what they call a titty mill. We had signals for all these tracks. That's a titty mill. That the signal go to titty mill. And oil mill. Stock track.
As far as Jackson, though, what was Jackson like, if you can reminisce a little bit, during the 40s and 50s, when it was still considered a small town before the interstates come through and there was nothing but... Could you, first off, name all the railroads that came through Jackson in that time?
Well, just the IC and the NC and St. L.
And the GM&O.
And GM&O.
Okay. GM&O had Island Yard, which is southeast of Jackson. Just
GM&O was
behind the fairgrounds.
Well, IC had a yard too, Frogmore.
Tell me about what you were saying about the IC wanted to build a big yard like Island.
Well, they talked about, well, as soon as the merger was, they was going to do away with Frogmore and make Jackson Yard bigger. At one time, the city of Jackson was going up on the taxes. See, Island was out of the city limits. They was going to incorporate and go up on the taxes. And our president, Mr. Brock, bought a lot of, or got an option to buy a lot of land out of Perry Switch. You know where Perry Switch is? And they was going to build a yard out there. And the city backed off and didn't do it. At one time, the GM&O Railroad alone paid enough taxes to the city to keep up all the streets. That's hearsay, but that's I've heard that said many times. Whether it was true or not, I don't know.
I don't know if it was you or Jim Driver that told me this, but how long did it take them to build Island Yard? Do you know?
Well, no, but...
Well, he said 5 months.
Yeah, but they kept adding to it, you know.
Okay.
Adding to it, but when they first built it, like Bear Ice and Coal Company was down there, they had one track, number 14, were stage icing, where they could... We ran a lot of banana trains out of... solid banana trains out of Mobile, like 50 and 60 cars. And they'd have to be iced down they'd ice them in Mobile, and then Jackson would be the next icing place.
Okay.
And some of the banana trains, cars would be diverted to the IC at Reeves, where we had a connection with IC across us at Reeves.
Uh-huh.
And they wouldn't ice them here. And the IC would ice them. They had an icing station at
Fulton, Kentucky?
Yeah, Fulton.
Okay.
And that's where they'd have to ice them. And they claimed that most of ours went to St. Louis, you know, unload. And of course, they was there with the engine caboose. Just as soon as we set out 30 or 40 cars for them, they'd grab them and fly, and they'd all be sitting there ready to ice those cars and take off with them. And back in those days, I mean, everything was rush, you know, because it was perishable. And
so perishables got priority over dead freight. Like
well,
if
they
they
had to keep stuff from
like
spoiling.
if two trains were coming at each other and one of them had to stop and let that one pass, the dead freight would stop and let the perishable go.
We used to get carload every year. We'd get a carload of strawberries at Kennon, and on the passenger train, they would load them in like it was passenger equipped for steam underneath. And I was fortunate one year. The agent there went on vacation or was sick or something, and they didn't have an agent to go there. And my dad was an agent at Dyer.
Right.
And they called me and wanted to know if I'd work the agency there, and I said, yeah. And of course he helped me. But I got a whole carload of strawberries, and I got the commission on it, which was quite a bit back in those days.
You mean you picked a carload up to take it?
Yeah, whoever was working at the time they billed that car a load of strawberries out, got a commission.
Got a percentage of it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
And,
neat.